Hello, I'm Steve Nunn, President and CEO of the Open Group. Welcome to Toolkit Tuesday, where we highlight the various components and leading experts of the Architect's Toolkit, a collated portfolio of the most pertinent technology standards for enterprise architects. During the series, I'll be calling on a number of recognized experts who will bring their particular insights on how to most effectively use the various tools in the Architect's Toolkit. We'll have a mix of interviews, panel sessions, and pre-recorded presentations along the way. While all standards of the Open Group are designed so they can be adopted independently of one another, the greatest value for an organization can be derived when they're used in unison. The sum of the parts should be greater than the whole. In the Architect's Toolkit, we have collated a portfolio of the most pertinent ones for architects together all in one place. For most of these tools, certification from the Open Group is also available, so practitioners can demonstrate that they have the skills required, and recruiters can take the guesswork out of the recruitment process, all backed up by our Open Badges program.
Never a complete picture. When we teach or show someone how to do architecture, we often get asked for example diagrams to show what it looks like. Rarely do people ask for example catalogues or matrices, which is ironic because actually those are in some ways more important because that's where the real truth is. However, coming back to diagrams, when we show a worked example, whether it's a cleaned up real one or whether it's a mocked up case study, we always show a whole picture that looks clean, tidy and neat. And in truth, we hardly ever have a clean, complete picture. Partly because what we're modelling is fluid and ever-changing, partly as it has to be a simplification of some form just for us to cope, and partly as we really don't need every detail on everything all of the time. So if you're learning about architecture, be nice to yourself and appreciate that the complete picture is only ever illustrative. Your real-world one will always be partial, with lots of assumptions, inferences, and will immediately be out of date as soon as you've rendered or drawn it.
Welcome everybody to Toolkit Tuesday. Great to have you with us. Thank you for taking time out to join us today, and my thanks as ever to Paul Homan of IBM for his great thoughts there. Yes, like you said at the end, Paul, it's out of date almost as soon as it's published or demonstrated. So, but wouldn't it be great to have a full picture at some point? But yes, I guess things always move when you're an architect or most things in life, I guess. Anyway, before I get too philosophical, welcome again to Toolkit Tuesday. Our main topic today is going to be on the Open Group OSDU forum, and in particular, the data platform that the forum has been working on. So you'll hear more about that shortly. But just a quick shameless plug again for the Open Group Summit that we're holding actually next week in London, in Westminster, the QE2 Centre at Westminster, from April 17th through the 20th, depending on what sessions you're interested in. If you are able to get there, we'd love to see you. More details on our website. But it's going to be a great event, a gathering of the clans and some great topics, and we have a theme of EA for sustainability, so a lot going on there. And the OSDU forum that you're just about to hear more about is having a multi-day session there, so do come along if you can. So without further ado, one housekeeping item: Q&A, please. If you have a question for today's speaker, try to use the Q&A channel there. If you can't see it, click on the three little dots in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, and that will give you the option to click on Q&A, and that's what I'll be monitoring to ask questions of our speaker today. Please, as ever, use the chat channel to communicate with your other attendees. We love to know where you are in the world and where you're joining us from. It's always a pleasure to see those messages coming in, and anything else you want to share with the other folks who are here. And so this time, really, without further ado, I will move to introduce our speaker today, who is my colleague Dennis Stevens. Dennis is the Open Group OSDU Forum and the Energistics Consortium Program Director. And in that capacity, Dennis manages one of our largest forums, whose membership consists of energy providers, cloud service providers, independent software vendors, and application providers, participating in the forum and the Energistics Consortium. Dennis joined the Open Group after a successful career with the Lockheed Martin Corporation, where Dennis had positions of increasing responsibility in engineering, program management, and business development. Today, Dennis is going to share with us more about the Open Group OSDU Forum and particularly the data platform. So a warm welcome to Toolkit Tuesday for Dennis Stevens. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about the OSDU Forum and the artifacts and output of that forum. Before we get started into it, I often get questions about exactly what we're doing with regards to standards and how do the standards help, how does the open source code help. And an illustrative example I often use, which actually in a way talks to Paul's comment about the longevity or shortness of standards and the applications that come from that, is the venerable light bulb. And I use the light bulb as a model, as a descriptive tool of what we do in the Open Group with respect to standards, open standards, and in this case of the OSDU Forum, the data platform itself, the open source development of it. So we look at the venerable light bulb, we see that this bulb is about 100 years old. And if we look at a bulb that comes today, an LED bulb, the similarities in them is the base. The base that was invented 100 years ago, standardized 100 years ago, allows the change in technology, the upgrade in technology in your home, for example, to a more modern technology for the creation of light. So, by example, what if when the LEDs came out, very efficient bulbs, you were asked from a business point of view, you'd have to change all of the outlets in your house, all of the sockets for the bulb. It would not be economical. It would not make economical sense whatsoever. So one of the things in the Open Group forums that we focus on is the business aspects of standards, and in the OSDU forum, the business aspects of the open source software. And by using terms like abstraction of interfaces, data definitions, APIs, things of that nature, in essence, what we are doing in that model is saying we're standardizing on those things that allow longevity of the device, but in the same sense, we're allowing the application provider to have the IP, the intellectual property, to be able to monetize, in this case, the modality of making light. And so if a vendor comes up with a method of using LEDs, and that is their IP, that is what we call the business logic, it becomes transparent, it becomes easily usable, easily consumable, and makes business sense. And that's what we try to strive for in the Open Group forums, and especially in the OSDU forum. So what is the community of the OSDU? It's international. It's composed of members around the world, from international energy companies to nationalized energy companies, to regulators, to providers, all of them working collaboratively, and also cloud service providers, all of them working collaboratively to develop the thing that we call the OSDU data platform that we're going to talk about in a second. So we were founded in about 2018. We were founded by the Shell Corporation. They had an idea for the standardization, the harmonization, the ability to exchange data amongst many, many companies in a way that reduced the costs of that exchange. It also reduced the costs of doing analysis on that data. And so today we've grown up to over 230 members. And of those 230 members, we have over 2,000 participants in the OSDU forum. And it spans the whole ecosystem from operators, both international and nationalized, oil field services and software companies, academic institutions, We have all of the major cloud service providers that are all contributing to the data platform. And then other industry standards bodies. Another paradigm of the open group is don't reinvent the wheel. If a different standards body has a standard that we can use, that our members can use, let's reach an agreement through a memorandum of understanding with that standards body to adopt their standard into the standards and into, in this case, the open source software that we're creating. And it's been very successful, as you can see by the growth chart. But what are the specific problems that the OSDU Forum is addressing? And what are those business problems? They're primarily focused on these four. One, to be able to drastically reduce or eliminate what's called vendor lock-in. And vendor lock-in is when you have standards or software applications that are unique to a specific vendor, and it causes the user of that software a tremendous amount of cost to change. So if that supplier is not responsive or is becoming too costly or is not innovative enough, to change can be very expensive. The OSDU Forum is by abstraction, going back to the light bulb example, by abstraction of the interfaces that allow access to the data platform, it opens it up to multiple vendors to be able to compete and to bring their products to the ecosystem. From a vendor perspective, by abstraction and documentation of the data standards and APIs, the application programmer interfaces to allow access to the data platform, it is a huge business gain for those application providers because they only have to build one version of their software application that will work ubiquitously with many, many instances of the data platform through that abstraction. The lack of interoperability and innovation goes hand in hand with that. If you have proprietary interfaces, APIs and data models, then the ability of someone to come in and innovate, even if a company is asking for that innovation, if that's not aligned with the provider's business goals, then they may not be able to achieve that innovation in new products. And the OSDU data platform addresses that head on by allowing innovation, allowing interoperability by definition. And then when you have multiple data platforms, so remember, we're a worldwide opportunity, a worldwide endeavor. We want to be able to move that information around that data to many entities, both inter-company and intra-company, so sharing with other companies or sharing internal with a large corporation. The data platform facilitates that. And then maintenance costs. So by moving to a cloud-based platform that eliminates a tremendous amount of organic costs that a company would bear if they had to maintain their own organic internal data structure. Now, the OSDU data platform is built for both, as you'll see in a few minutes, for both cloud provider implementation as well as on-premise if you have a high-performance compute center. It is applicable in both cases. Now, I often get asked, what is this thing called a data platform? Is it a database? Is it a visualization system? It's actually much more than that. It's a knowledge capture system. The idea is when you have data representing information coming from multiple sources, the contextual use of that data can mean different things to different people. So, for example, if I use the word well, that word, depending on whether you're in a production capacity or in an analysis capacity, can have different meanings. So part of the work that we do in the OSDU data platform is to ensure harmonization of that contextual use of terminology and the standards and data definitions behind those contextual use of that terminology. It enables decision making efficiently. So one of the biggest problems in the energy industry has been the ability to find information efficiently. There's extremely large amounts of data created in the search for new energy. And that data has to be able to be analyzed to make decisions on where to obtain that energy. And the ability to do that search in the past has been relatively difficult because the data, again, comes in different forms and different modalities. The OSDU data platform, the fundamental goal of that is to harmonize that information, to make that information easily searchable and expose the result of that in a manner that the geoscientist can analyze that data, or in the case of new energy, the use of wind farms, photovoltaic, geothermal, hydrogen. Those persons working in those areas would be able to make sense out of the data and make informed decisions. So what is this data platform from an architectural, albeit high level, point of view? The idea is to take multiple sources of data, as I said earlier. It could be weather data, it could be seismic data, it could be reservoir data, wind farm generation, power generation data. All of this data in different formats comes into the data platform. It's envisioned to come into the data platform and to be able to be parsed in a way that it can be ultimately stored for search, and to be able to search it by indexing the data, being able to search the data, and then to be able to enrich the data, to be able to do something with the data, to perhaps combine it. So you have multiple sources of data representing different domains, and the ability to combine those different domains of data, like seismic, like reservoir data, and similar domain sets of that nature, to be able to combine that in the data platform, look for commonality, look for alignment, look for coordination between that data, and then to be able to utilize search to be able to find specific areas of that data that you want to search on, to analyze, and then to be able to display it to you. We call it consumption technologies. So, for example, to map that information to geographic datums on the surface of the Earth. And all of that plays together in an environment of safety and security. There's many security concepts in place. There's also legal concepts in place. We call it tagging, so that we don't just simply take the data that could be owned by an entity and distribute it to the world. That would never be done. There's legal and entitlements for the viewing of that data that are carried into the data platform. And all of that information and the modality of how that is done is what we call microservices. And in the data platform, in the development of the data platform, it would be wrong to think of the data platform as a singular chunk of open source software. It is, in essence, a whole series of microservices representing ingestion, search, enrichment, and ultimately consumption, amongst others. Security is others. All these microservices are being developed by our members collaboratively in an open source environment where they contribute the best ideas to the product. And then each of these microservices are then stitched together in what we call a continuous integration, continuous development process that's done by the members, ultimately leading to the data platform to be used. Our first instances are by cloud service providers. The 4 cloud service providers will be able and are able to provide you instances of the data platform. And as we go into the future, on-premise, downloading those microservices and integrating them for on-premise use is also available. And ultimately, we are developing what we call a reference instance that universities can use for experimental work, for analysis, for education, and teaching purposes. So the vision of OSDU was and is many companies, over 230 of them, over 2,000 individuals are participating in the creation of the data platform. And you can see the roadmap. It started originally with Shell's contribution of what was called the Shell Data Universe, along with Schlumberger's initial contribution of their DES, portions of their DES platform. And then we moved into what we called the R3, which was the first release of the data platform in 2022, in March of 2022. And since then, we have had a tremendous amount of growth. We've had over 15, going on 16 upgrades of the data platform. And these are what we call milestone upgrades since the Mercury release. I won't get into all the details of what the highlights are, but the essence is, I think the key takeaway is what you see in the data platform is the constant growth every 6 to 10 weeks through the agile development process in our open source development by the members. They're delivering a new software release about every 6 to 10 weeks that is continually increasing the capabilities of the data platform. As we saw in the previous slide, solar, wind, hydrogen, geothermal, carbon capture are all portions, and we have work groups working on those today. Looking at the aspects of those new energy areas as applicable to the data platform, as well as real-time streaming of data. So, you can look at the data platform used in the sense of analyzing existing data sets and newly discovered data sets of subsurface data. And then you can also look at the data platform into the future where we're streaming real-time data coming off of production platforms, coming off of alternative or new energy platforms such as wind farms and geothermal. All of that data is streaming into the data platform to allow informed decisions by the operators that are using that platform. That those informed decisions increase efficiency of those decisions and therefore reduces costs at the end for all of the users and the consumers at the end of the day. What's exciting also about the data platform is the attraction of the next generation of talent. The software microservices that are being utilized in the data platform are the latest, you want to call it technologies in software. The algorithms that are being used, the tools that are being used are state-of-the-art, brought to the OSDU forum by the members themselves, and they're bringing in, and so there's an excitement. There's an excitement of the next generation of software developers, the next generation of geoscientists, the next generation of energy provider careers are all very excited about the data platform because it's cutting edge. It's cutting edge technology. And we are seeing increased participation in academia. And from that perspective, it offers the ability of promising students to interact with members of the community. The members of the community get to see those students, get to see their talents, and in return, the students get to see the vibrant community that makes up this ecosystem, and it's truly a win-win situation. So we're very excited about this aspect of the data platform. So in summary, the data platform is open source. Open source is the model we use to create the data platform. That is Apache. What we use is the Apache 2.0 license, which means you're free to use it just about in any way, shape, and form that you wish. It's standards-based. So at the end of the day, if you are a developer and you're building software, you're building a product, you've got a target. That is the basis, by the way, for certification that Steve spoke about earlier. And that certification ensures the end user that what they're getting is fit for purpose and that the application provider has a target to build to. So as I said earlier, they build one version of their software and it can be used in many places through certification. It is technology agnostic. It does not favor any one specific technology for an IT infrastructure. So today we've got the 4 largest cloud service providers in the world participating. Each of them have different platforms. Each of them have their own way of doing things. But at the end of the day, the abstractions of those interfaces, we call them the SPI layer, allows all of them to work harmoniously with the data platform. So if you think at the very top above the platform is an application provider, writes an application, let's say it's an AI application. They write that application using the APIs and data models that are standardized in the open groups OSDU form, and that allows them access into the data platform, and the data platform is then operating on any one of the cloud service providers through a lower layer of abstraction that we call the SPI layer. You would also utilize that same SPI layer if you were to do an on-premise. You had your own compute infrastructure, your own private cloud infrastructure, you would be able to operate it there. That's why we call it technology agnostic. It's not just a storage solution. Don't think of the data platform as a big database. It's more than that. As I said, it allows you to search. It allows you to infer decisions and make decisions based on inferences between multiple sources of data. And it also allows the harmonization of data and the standardization of data as it comes into the data platform. It started in the subsurface oil and gas. That was our pedigree, hence the name OSDU, Open Subsurface Data Universe. But we quickly saw that the applications of this IT infrastructure go way beyond subsurface and go into the new energy areas of hydrogen, geothermal, solar, photovoltaic, to name a few. And so we are seeing that applicability, and also carbon capture, utilization, and storage. We have another forum in the open group called Open Footprint that's focused on sustainability and measurement of carbon emissions. This data platform, the fundamentals of it are actually being used also in that forum as well. So the applicability is quite diverse and frankly quite exciting. So I want to thank you for the few minutes we've had today to discuss. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me here at this email address, or for more information, we have a wonderful website. It's at osduforum.org. There's some really good blogs written on that. They give insight into the data platform. There's also, if you are a software developer, there's application training courses on that, and it also gives you general information. But the most important message, I think, is if you are involved in the energy community, albeit legacy energy or new energy, the Open Group OSDU Forum is an exciting place to really come and discover and learn and be able to increase your business efficiency in your respective area of the ecosystem. With that, I want to thank you. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Dennis. Great summary, and there's so much going on in this forum that it's hard to capture it in just a few minutes. But thank you for taking us on that tour. In the interest of time, I'll get straight to a question, and it's actually almost keyed up by your very last words of if you're in the energy industry or even whichever part of that energy industry. The question is, how do I contribute to the OSDU data platform, specifically if I'm not currently in the energy industry?
So The idea is that this data platform in and of itself is an IT infrastructure that frankly has applicability way beyond the energy community. And so if you have skills, if you have products that you wish to contribute, we have a modality to do that. And we, by going to that website, you'll see a tool called AHA, AHA, and that tool is used to obtain ideas for new contributions. And so if a member wishes to contribute, they simply fill out the inquiry in AHA. And part of the questions that are asked are what is your idea, of course, and what are you willing to contribute? How many, what resources would you be able to bring to the data platform, to the group? And so that is one of the key methods for contributing. But since this is open source, we have a way for both members and non-members to contribute. But frankly, we see more members contributing because one of the benefits of membership is to participate in all of our meetings where you're exposed to information from your peers, information from your customers, frankly, information from government regulators as they come on board with regard to the regulatory aspects, the use of the data platform for regulatory aspects. So many ways to contribute. My recommendation starting point would be a membership in the Open Group OSDU forum.
And there's a question just come in about the cost of membership, which is not a dodge in ducking the question, but it really does depend on the organization that you're working for, whether it's a customer, a supplier, government, whatever. But the information on membership can be found on the opengroup.org website, so you'll be able to find out what that is there. And Dennis, I think it's fair to say that a lot is, you focus quite rightly on the data platform and the open source work that's been going on, the technologies involved and how exciting they are. Let's not forget that fundamentally this wouldn't be happening if there weren't real business problems to be solved. So can you say, just to close on a few, how you would see the take up of this standard by the operators, who fundamentally are the customers here, who have the most to gain from the work that's been going on in the forum?
One of the biggest areas that we've seen, and I believe there's even been papers written about it, is the efficiency of being able to search massive amounts of data representing subsurface information. It is an incredible task to search that data, to then analyze it. So if you have a basin and you're doing basin exploration, and the output of that basin exploration is large data sets that then the geophysicists need to analyze. The beauty of the data platform allows the highly efficient analysis of that information, then to make informed decisions on what that data represents. Without the data platform, there are separate and disparate data sets that all have to be manually fused together. Now, truth be told, each organization probably has their own way of doing it, but they're all separate. And so think about from a business point of view. Think if you could come up with identifying, which we did in the OSDU data platform, those areas that are common to all of the companies, right? Common investments that they would make that really don't bring them a competitive edge, in the area of IT infrastructure. And so what the OSDU data platform does is focuses on those, what we would say is the non-competitive areas, right? And we share, all our members share in that area. That allows them to take their individual investment that they would normally have to put into creating their own data platform. They can take that investment and put it into areas such as applications and analysis tools, that does get them a competitive edge, right? It does
Higher
give them
value add
competitive
stuff. Yeah.
discriminators. So it's a fantastic way of sharing on those areas that are deemed to be non-competitive, but yet important, And so that's one of the main cost drivers. From an application provider, think about, I always use the I'll use the TurboTax example, right? TurboTax doesn't matter to the first order. It doesn't matter what computer you have at home, whether it was built by company A, company B, company C. If it was built to some certain standards, TurboTax will run on any of those platforms, right? So in theory, the company that built that or any other similar commercial application writes one version of their software, and it runs many places. That's the value proposition of the OSDU data platform for our application providers.
Sure.
Instead of having to carry and maintain multiple versions of their fundamental software product to run on all these different, separate, disparate instances, they only have to really build one to the OSDU data platform, one application. Think of the cost savings to them from a maintenance point of view and other associated factors that now allow them to take that investment that they would normally have to price into their product for maintenance. They can take that investment and use that to build newer, better, innovative products that run on the data platform. It's a fantastic proposition for both the application provider and the end user. And with new energy, if I just may, with new energy, think about a wind farm or a solar photovoltaic farm that needs to understand all the variabilities of weather, of irradiance of the sun at a given point in time, affected by many factors. It's a multivariable, very complex problem. The OSDU data platform is envisioned to be able to utilize its capabilities to make those informed decisions, and then to be able to allow the operator to adjust accordingly to maximize the output of that new energy source. And the same thing goes with carbon capture and sequestration, as well as tracking carbon utilization in the future. And there's work going on right now in the application of the program for those areas to provide that value add benefit to the community. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Great. It's great stuff, and it's really making a difference. And it's your enthusiasm about it, and I know that of the members is contagious as well. But we must leave it there for now. But for those of you who have a chance to hear more next week in London, then do please join us at the summit. Meanwhile, a big thank you from Toolkit Tuesday for Dennis Stevens. Thank you, sir. And that's it for today. We are taking a short break. We've been on a weekly cadence on Toolkit Tuesday leading up to the London Summit. We'll take a short break, but we'll be back next month in May. Watch out for notifications about the dates and the topics that we'll be covering. But there's a great list coming up in the after a short break. So join us again in May and look out for the notifications. And we really appreciate your time. And for those of you who are listening to this after the event, I hope you found it as useful as the rest of us did. So that's it for now. Thank you, everyone. I'm Steve Nunn. Thank you for watching Toolkit Tuesday.